Hello, welcome back to Fujitsu World Tour London. With me, a man who needs little introduction, Dr. Joseph Reger. Dr. Joseph's the Chief Technical Officer at Fujitsu across EMEIA. A year ago, we were talking at last year's World Tour, where I recall you saying that getting creation and innovation into businesses was key, and perhaps management structure needed to change to unlock innovation and creativity that could exist in businesses. A year on, are companies better at it?
I remember that actually, and I can tell you there's a lot of change for the good. Now that doesn't mean that we have ideal environments or anything like that, but companies are learning how important it is to do more innovation, to do a new kind of innovation, the digital innovation, and they are learning that they need to change their traditional ways, including organizational structures, if they want to provide the right environment for that. So indeed, there's a lot of change for the good.
That's encouraging to hear. Technology moves at such a fast rate, and we know there are companies out there that would be great at delivering new technology. Some companies who perhaps want to, but for whatever reason, they've not got the resources and budget. Some companies are fear of new technology. On balance, do you think industries now are getting more of it right in delivering more of the disruptive technologies? I mean, we hear about retailers struggling at the moment.
Well, the problem is with the delivering part. So for any new major transition like this one, you need to first find the time to actually conceive it and implement it and then deliver it. I would say that in the first part we are getting pretty good across all industries. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of desire, and you will not find a chief executive of any kind who will tell you that this stuff is not important for my business. The delivery part of it is still an issue in the sense that there is a big part of the digital transformation projects who actually fail for good reasons. And there is another part that succeed, so it's a balance, and it's not being delivered as fast in many cases as we would like to have it. So on the delivery side, we need to do still quite some work, but I think the acceptance of it has reached all-time high levels.
So that's interesting, because I know Fujitsu have a philosophy on not just delivering on a technology problem, but a business problem. So aligning the boardroom with technology. Sounds like the gap that used to be there is shortening then. If more chief execs are aware of the problems afoot and the need for change, that's encouraging.
So that gap is shortening for sure, and there are two factors that play into that. First of all, there is now a new generation of not just chief executives, but also IT executives, formerly called CIOs. There are now fancier job titles around. And on that level, there is a change because it's a different generation, it's a different view. There's a lot more interest for new technologies. And the other effect is that there is an incredibly strong grassroots movement in all companies. Young people are bringing in from their private life technologies and experiences, and therefore there's a pressure that's building at the lower parts of the hierarchy. We talked about this last year that I'm not a big fan of hierarchies. They are detrimental to digital transformation in many cases. So that's improving too. But these two things together produce a new situation where the gap is much smaller and therefore the pace of change is higher.
What about cultural problems? And what I mean by that is, we know we've got this younger workforce coming through. As you say, they've grown up in technology. They're more embracive of technology. Some organizations will have legacy staff who might not be as welcoming to that technology. How important is it for a company to address that cultural challenge as much as the technology challenge?
So we find, and Fujitsu conducts studies to find out these things and have data about it. We've done one last year. We've done just one just these days. It's being released today, and we find that there is change. Quite possibly there isn't enough change, and it's becoming a little bit debatable whether the whole company needs to change or whether the parts of the company that deal with the digital innovation, digital transformation. And this leads back to the question whether the digital transformation or the digital journey is one that will redefine the entire company or just some aspects of it or some businesses of it. We find that that depends on industry, that depends on the particular company too. Some of them actually redefining everything they do, they require then changes that touch upon the entire structure and everything in the company, all the processes, the way they hire, the way they skill people, and so on. In other cases, we find that the traditional business does need improvements. It does benefit from the introduction of the digital innovation, but it's still the same company at the core in terms of what the products are or what the services are. There it is maybe less deep, but where digital transformation and technologies come in there, in that part, they must be deep. They cannot just scratch on the surface. They really need to penetrate everything. It's another debate, and it needs to be done with every customer about whether that will affect the whole company at some point or not, because that will depend.
What about industries that are a good example of delivering on all of this technological and business change? Is there a particular industry at the moment that others could look to and think, okay, I can take inspiration from that, they're getting it right?
Well, there are a number of them actually, and I'm not saying that they're all doing this on their own volition. Some of them are forced by market forces and developments in the market, but look at what's happening in the finance industry. By financial innovation, fintech innovation comes from startups, and how it is being integrated into the normal life of a traditional bank, for example. That's a good one to look at. Another one is how retail industry is using all the possibilities of the Internet of Things developments, the sensors, the data analytics, the prediction of customer behavior, and so on in a traditional business like retail. So this is how IT penetrates the retail industry. And in manufacturing, we have wonderful examples of how traditional manufacturing, producing very analog type of equipment, is actually using the new possibilities of IT and Internet of Things to do simple things such as predictive maintenance on their equipment that is out in the field. And these are all learnings that other industries can look at and ask themselves, could I do something similar myself?
What technology are we going to see more of over the next 12 to 24 months? I ask you this every year.
You do, and I quite like the question because it does change a little bit. However, I think it's safe to say currently that even though the importance and the significance of technologies does vary in the different industry segments, there is one that's everywhere now, and everybody is looking at it, which by the way leads to a total depletion of skilled labor force in the market, and that's some form of AI. That typically over 90% of the cases, that's machine learning skills and automation as provided by AI. That's in every industry, and it's a very entertaining exercise to see that even industry areas or customers who thought that they are not going to need artificial intelligence and machine learning are discovering that actually there is some potential for them as well. Therefore, the one technology, it's not a single technology, it's a set of technologies that we label AI, mostly machine learning, is penetrating most everything I've seen.
Interesting. As always, you're speaking at Fujitsu World Tour. What was your keynote on today?
So it was about digital co-creation and the technology underpinning of that. Digital co-creation is Fujitsu's way of working with customers to produce better business outcomes for them. It's based on the assumption that we do have a good technology knowledge. We develop our breakthrough technologies, and I did talk about a number of them. I did talk about new approaches to AI, but I did talk about a bridge technology to quantum computing, which is going to bring unprecedented compute power for us to be used in all industries, essentially. So we do that, this technology. However, we think that there is no way any tech company, not even Fujitsu, that could know everything there is to know about every customer's and every industry segment's needs and their plans, Therefore, we developed this methodology, co-creation, in which we always work hand in hand. It starts with the co-creation workshop that we are demonstrating here at the Fujitsu World Tour in London. It starts like that, but it is a continuous process where we bring what we do best to the table, and that's the technology and services side, and the customer, their knowledge about their own business.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Joseph. Interesting as ever. I could talk all day on these topics.
We'll see you next year then.
We'll see you next year, we will indeed.
Yeah.
There's plenty more to come from Fujitsu World Tour. We've still got, we're going to take another look at retail, and we can't ignore the fact that there are jobs going out on the high street at the moment, but does that have to be the case? Can we be delivering technology to future-proof retailers? We're going to be talking to Jat Sai and a guest speaker very shortly. Plenty more to come from Fujitsu World Tour London. Thanks for watching.